What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for January 20th, 2023. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. I thought we had another solid SmackDown on Friday. A lot like last week where it started strong, had a great ending, and the Bloodline stuff continues to carry this show. Unlike last week, though, where I thought everything in the middle was good, I thought last week was one of the better SmackDowns in recent memory. The final SmackDown of the year comes to mind from a few weeks ago. That was a great show. This week, not so much. I did not watch the show live, so I probably would have thought the show was worse than it was had I watched it live. When I watch after the fact, I can skip through all the entrances, recaps, bullshit. I mean, like, I watch obviously all the matches and the promos and stuff like that, but I'm talking about, like, the recaps, the replays, the commercials, the stuff we already see a million times. I did sit through the Raw 30 video package they put together, because that was the first time I had seen that. I don't know if they put that up on their YouTube channel earlier in the day. I know they did, like, a 30-second version of that for the Raw 30, commercial a couple of weeks ago, but this was, like, the first full-length video package I was hoping we would get for the show. They aired it early on SmackDown last night, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really good. Before I forget, I wanted to mention that. But yeah, just a lot of what we got in the middle of this week's show for SmackDown was not overly great. It once again started strong, ended strong. The Bloodline stuff backstage was great. But although we had the official kickoff, the SmackDown Tag Team Title Tournament on the show, most of the matches were not overly memorable, that is. The opener was great. We'll get right into it here. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus taking on the Viking Raiders. Quarterfinal match in the SmackDown Tag Team Title #1 Contenders Tournament. Excellent match here, as you would imagine. Great to see the Viking Raiders wearing the Dem Boys armbands, as Kevin Owens was later on for Jay Briscoe, who passed away earlier this week. We discussed that on WrestleRant Radio a few days ago, as well as hashtag AskGSM on Wednesday. Just a very tragic situation. So it was nice to see them honoring Jay Briscoe. I think Michael Cole, I actually missed this when I watched the show late last night, but he acknowledged the passing of Jay Briscoe on commentary like he did with Don West a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I mentioned that in my audio review a few weeks ago, but Michael Cole did acknowledge the passing of Don West on commentary on SmackDown for the final show of the year back in 2022. I make it sound like it was a year ago. It was only 3 weeks ago. So I thought that was really cool. I don't know if we would have ever seen that with Vince McMahon running commentary and creative and running the shows week to week. I know he's back as executive chairman, but I feel like calls like those are up to Triple H. So I really respect that. I thought that was a very classy move on WWE's part. Like I said, the match itself was great. McIntyre and Sheamus worked just as well as partners as they do as opponents. We've seen that in the past. And the Raiders are great. Honestly, this was probably the best Viking Raiders match we have seen in a very long fucking time. And that's no shot to them. I thought their matches last year with the New Day, specifically the Viking Rules match back in August or September, was really, really good. I thought the match they had for the tag titles with the Usos on SmackDown about a year ago was also quite good. They've never really had a chance to showcase their skills and show how good they actually are. And we've had glimmers of greatness with them on the main roster where they've had some really good matches here and there. I assume this will be no different, where they go in there on a show like this and they have a great match, and then they're back to being boring as a tag team. They are better off as heels right now, I will say that. Valhalla being their manager, Sarah Logan, is fine. I think it's a nice addition to the act. I've said that before. Just keep her out of the ring. But no, great match here. Very physical, hard-hitting affair. McIntyre and Sheamus go over in a fantastic finishing sequence here. The crowd was into this. They were hot for it. Very good way to kick off the show. And they advanced to the next round. LA Knight took on a gentleman named Brent Jones. Now, they call him Ren Jones on commentary, either R-E-N Jones. I've seen it spelled that way. I've seen it spelled W-R-E-N Jones. But WWE.com had him listed as Brent Jones. So, since WWE is the official source, although they call them they definitely call them fucking Ren Jones on SmackDown, I'll just go with Brent Jones. Regardless, Mr. Jones was quickly dismantled here by LA Knight. Literally almost immediately, the local loser, no disrespect to Mr. Jones, was quickly beaten by Knight, as he should have been. Knight cut a great promo on Wyatt beforehand that I thought was terrific, not going along with the hocus pocus bullshit. The whole gimmick is that he kind of dismisses it, although he falls victim to it, and he is afraid of Wyatt, so it is what it is. He's the classic chicken shit heel, whatever. But Bray Wyatt then bringing back the Firefly Fun House for a special episode here. The first Firefly Fun House that we've seen in the same set. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, whatever it says on the sign of the front of the door for the Firefly Fun House. The exact same set from the last time we saw the Fun House. I mean, I guess you can kind of say it was when he returned at Extreme Rules. They showed that fake set when he came back that night, which was awesome. The first episode, really, of the Firefly Fun House since, I think, April of 2021, the night after WrestleMania, when he lost to Randy Orton. He brought back the Fun House for the first time in many months, because he was the Fiend prior to that point exclusively. He brought it back, and he was like, oh, the next time you see me, I'll be different, blah, blah, blah. And then he got fired a couple of months later or so, and then he came back. So, yeah, it's been a while since we've seen the Fun House. I thought it was a cool throwback. I do not want to see this character back on the regular. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but I just feel like that would be a step backward. People did pop for this. The crowd did go, not crazy, but they were very happy to hear that the Firefly Funhouse was back and to see it and whatever on the Titantron. I thought that was cool, and Wyatt cut a very good promo. I don't need to see it back on the regular, and I don't think we will, because we saw this here. We saw a week ago Bray was kind of back in his Eater of Worlds persona with what he was saying, sitting in the rocking chair. Now, it would have been fucking cool if you brought back the old music for 1 week, which hopefully at some point we will hear again, with the Fireflies and everything. But no, I thought this was cool. I think it's nice that he's revisiting his old personas before we get to the Royal Rumble, to whatever the fuck this pitch black match is going to be. I just don't want to see this brought back in the regular, because the Firefly Funhouse stuff, to no fault of Bray Wyatt, it really ran its course the last time we saw it a couple of years ago. But it was cool to see it again here. We had another SmackDown Tag Team Title #1 Contenders Tournament matchup in the quarterfinals. That's quite the mouthful. Hit Row taking on Los Lotharios. Now, we had a lot of heel versus heel matches on the show, because SmackDown has far more fucking heel teams than they do babyface teams. I've said this before. They even have heel champions in the Usos. So I feel like they got to turn one of these faces heel. Hit Row were baby faces, and they just turned heel, as they should have, because they really weren't over as baby faces, unfortunately. I'm not sure how turning heel is going to really work out for them, but it's at least an attempt. They did win here, beating Los Lotharios. The match was fine. Not much time. Hit Row really haven't had many, if any, good matches since coming back to SmackDown. And largely, I hate to say that it falls on Top Dollar. Adonis, from what I've seen of Ashanti the Adonis, is quite good. Top Dollar, for whatever reason, has regressed in the ring from when we last saw him a year or so ago. I don't know why. But the match was whatever. They advanced. It would have been pretty bad had they just turned heel and then immediately be eliminated, but they will be losing next week when they take on Drew and Sheamus in the semifinals. Charlotte Flair was out in the ring next, complaining about Sonya and brawling with her in the back last week. Sonya interrupted. They just went back and forth with Sonya asking, really just demanding another opportunity at the SmackDown Women's Championship, because Charlotte wanted another match with Sonya, and Sonya said, well, if you want another match with me, you're going to have to put the championship on the line. Charlotte basically declined. Adam Pearce interrupted. Sonya blindsided Charlotte, and that was the end of the segment. They didn't fight. She just hit her and walked away. This sucked. Charlotte's not a great babyface. She really hasn't changed much about her character, aside from the fact that she praises the audience, she doesn't shit on them, and she smiles. That's really the extent of her character development right now. And Sonya, I like Sonya a lot. She is underrated, but we really haven't seen a lot of what she can do in the ring this past year, because she's been fed to people left and fucking right like a loser. So I'm not really sure how anyone can possibly take her seriously. This segment did nothing for me, I'm sorry. We had Imperium, Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci specifically, taking on the Brawling Brutes as Ridge Holland and Butch in another quarterfinal match in the SmackDown Tag Team Title #1 Contenders Tournament. Quite the mouthful, like I said. Another good match here. I thought this was good. Definitely better than Hit Row and Lotharios in the next quarterfinal match that we've got on the show. It was good. It wasn't great, but I thought what we got from these four guys was quite good. They all work well together. Imperium won as they should have. Where I see this headed, and I'll just say this now, Legado beat Maximum Male Models, who we haven't seen on the show in the ring in quite a while, and thankfully so. Their segments on YouTube are entertaining, the Maximum Male Models, that is. But the faction itself sucks as like an act, and no one gives a shit. And they were immediately disbanded by Legado, so they're done in the tournament. Legado advanced. I like Legado. They're a stepping stone team. They were on NXT. They have been on SmackDown. It is what it is. With this tournament, let's just get right into it. We know that it's definitely coming down to Imperium, Sheamus, and McIntyre. It would have been cool, honestly, if it came down to Brawling Brutes versus Sheamus and Sheamus and Drew. The problem with that, though, is that both teams have lost to the Usos multiple times already. Drew and Sheamus only got one opportunity, but Sheamus already had 2 opportunities, including that one, and alongside Butch. Butch has lost to the Usos fucking 3 times. Butch does not need Ridge Holland has lost to the Usos. Maybe it was Butch, actually. I don't think it was Ridge. I think it was Butch. He lost to the Usos 3 fucking times. With Sheamus about a month ago when Drew couldn't make the show. He lost to them on SmackDown the first time back in September or October, and then he lost to them again at Crown Jewel. So the Brawling Brutes should be done in the SmackDown Tag Team title picture. Honestly, Drew and Sheamus should be done in the Tag Team title picture as well. They work great as a team. I'm fine with them being in this tournament. I think it's cool. Like I said, they need more babyface teams on SmackDown. I do think the team is short-lived, because where I see this going is this. Imperium and the Usos, again, another heel versus heel team, I get it, but we haven't seen it yet. We're getting the Usos in the Judgment Day on Monday's Raw, the 30th anniversary show, for the Raw Tag Team titles. I assume Judgment Day wins, but even if not, it's a heel versus heel match. So clearly WWE is not afraid to do heel versus heel matches with the Usos, and I think it'd be a great match. Maybe Imperium wins. I mean, obviously fucking hope not. I mean, it really should be Owens and Zayn taking those tag titles from the Usos at WrestleMania. But they can be a nice filler team at Elimination Chamber or whatever. That's fine. Honestly, and I said this on Twitter earlier today, where I see this headed is this. The Usos face, or it's Imperium versus Drew and Sheamus. Imperium win after interference from Gunther. And maybe they do something with Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus in the Rumble. Maybe, who knows. Gunther helps Imperium win. Imperium go on to face the Usos and hopefully lose. And then, as a result of that, Drew and Sheamus have an issue with Gunther. Sheamus already has bad blood with Gunther from late last year. I've always said, as many other people have, it really should be Gunther and Sheamus straight up in a singles match at WrestleMania. To me, that's where the story is. That's the match that makes the most sense. The problem is that I don't know what you do with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. And I felt the same way a week or 2 ago. I don't really know what the fuck you do with him at WrestleMania. He's been in, I don't want to say a top match, but he was in a top match at WrestleMania 36 and 37. Last year he faced fucking Baron Corbin. You don't even really have a lot of heels like that on SmackDown that he can face at WrestleMania. I love Legado. I love Santos. I don't see Santos and Drew being a WrestleMania-worthy match because Santos hasn't really been built up that much. I mean, you could do that, maybe. I don't really know what else you do, unless it's Drew and Sheamus taking on Gunther in a triple threat. And if you do that, it accomplishes a few different things. In that they can still put the belt on Sheamus. I really fucking hope they don't put it on Drew. I love Drew. It really should be Sheamus winning that championship, let's be honest. Sheamus should be winning the title. You get Drew and Sheamus in the ring at WrestleMania. They've always wanted to face each other at WrestleMania. It's not a singles match between the two, but it's a triple threat. Gunther can lose the championship without being pinned. If they want to keep him undefeated, they can have Sheamus pin Drew and he becomes champion. To me, it kind of... Here's the thing. By Mania, and Gunther doesn't have to be one of these people, and he was undefeated in NXT for a very long time. In NXT UK and NXT. He was pinned at Survivor Series in 2019. But in one-on-one action, he was not beaten for at least 2 or 3 years when he finally lost the championship to Ilya Dragunov in NXT at a TakeOver 31 or whatever it was. So as far as that stuff goes, I would put the belt on Sheamus. I would have him beat Gunther at WrestleMania. You don't have to keep Gunther undefeated, but if they want to, I guess that works. It would be a fucking banger match, I get it. I would rather see a singles match, but if they want to switch it up and put Drew in there and also give Drew a prominent match in Mania, that works too, I guess. So just my thoughts as far as where I think this is headed. I already mentioned the other tag team title matchup. The main event was supposed to be the Undisputed Universal Championship contract signing with Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, or rather Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. It might as well have been Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was all over this show. He had to apologize to Roman for what happened last week, thinking that he was being used, and he kind of had to backtrack a little bit, and Roman got offended. They made up later in the show. This was another show-long storyline. I thought this was tremendous. Everything with Roman, Owens as well, Zayn, the Usos, every week on the show is fucking great. And I appreciate the fact that Reigns has been on SmackDown a lot in the last month and a half. He came back about a month ago, and he's been on pretty much every episode of SmackDown since. I don't think he was on last week, but he's been on almost every episode of SmackDown since then, which I think is great and really hyping up this Owens-Reigns match at the Royal Rumble. Where do I think this is headed? I mean, I was convinced that Sami was splitting away from them. Now it looks like they might break away from him. I don't fucking know, but we know it's inevitable, and we know it's imminent. It's coming up very, very soon, and that segment will be must-see television, to say the least. It will be great. I will mention this about the contract signing before I go further on that front, but Owens got the better of them here. Reigns' entrance lasted 5 times longer than the actual segment. Roman took forever to get to the ring. When he was finally in there, they waited for Owens. Owens came up from the side of the ring, took out Solo, took out Roman with a powerbomb through the table. He stood tall. The crowd loved this. They ate this shit up. And by the time Sami showed up, because he was running errands for Roman, he was getting the jet ready or whatever for the Usos. By the time they showed up, by the time Sami showed up, Owens had left. So what they're doing here is great. The next step is the acknowledgement ceremony in Monday's Raw, but I have to mention this. They made 2 changes, multiple changes to Raw 30, but 2 things they announced /change for the coming week. We found out that on SmackDown next week, it's going to be Kevin Owens versus Solo Sikoa one-on-one, which I figured would be happening because we've gotten a lot of interaction between them, between the two in recent weeks. Maybe it ends in a DQ. Maybe Solo suffers his first loss. I don't know. But we get that match next week on SmackDown. The other thing was that we were supposed to get an acknowledgement ceremony with the Bloodline on Monday's Raw, on Raw 30. The problem is that they have since changed that to a tribal chief something. I forgot what it was called. It's all about Sami Zayn. It's the tribal chief trial or whatever. Basically, it's going to be about Sami and whether he can stay or get kicked out of the Bloodline. That might be where they do the split. Maybe Sami betrays them there. Maybe they wait until after the Rumble to set up, hopefully, Sami and Roman for Elimination Chamber. To me, that's the money match. So I don't really know. Honestly, I feel like that just makes the most sense to do it soon and maybe on that show. It sucks we're not getting that acknowledgement ceremony because it really seemed like, oh, maybe The Rock will be on the show, but they're not advertising it anymore. They're not talking about, oh, Alpha and Sika and Rikishi are going to be there. They didn't say any of that. So apparently, they didn't say that on SmackDown either, but they changed it, an advertisement heading into Raw coming out of SmackDown. So if you were looking forward to the acknowledgement ceremony, it's not happening. They are doing something. The Bloodline will be on the show doing something different with Sami Zayn, but it doesn't look like The Rock's going to be there, which maybe he'll be at the Rumble. Who knows? It doesn't look like The Rock will be there or any of the other members of the NOI family, but I guess we'll find out on Raw. As for SmackDown this week, it was a fine show. Like I said earlier, the Bloodline stuff continues to be the best part of SmackDown every fucking week. The opening match I thought was great, and the closing segment I also thought was perfectly well done. The other stuff in the middle was kind of just filler to me. The Charlotte and Sonya feud, I don't give a fuck about at all. The tag team title tournament to crown new number 1 contenders has been fine. That's a good idea to kind of put more renewed focus on the SmackDown division, tag team division, which is okay. The Knight and Wyatt stuff I liked this week. That didn't drag on or wasn't as forgettable as usual. I thought that was cool. We got the Cody Rhodes video package again, which I skipped through because we saw it on Monday's Raw. Why would I watch it again? And they also aired on, like I said earlier, the Raw 30 video package to celebrate 30 years of Monday Night Raw. And honestly, I thought it was very well done. I love the one they did for Raw 25. And the one for Raw 30 is also, it looks great, unless they add stuff to it or take certain stuff out or whatever. The current video package looked awesome, so be sure to check that out before Raw on Monday. But yeah, thank you guys as always for checking out my SmackDown audio review. I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a comment down below, like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. SmackDown Lowdown review coming tomorrow here on the channel, and plenty more Rumble content in the next week, as I will be at the Royal Rumble next weekend, which I'm looking forward to. So that's going to be a lot of fun, hoping to post content from the show itself and everything leading up to it. Have an awesome Royal Rumble week coming up, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.